Jesus said, "Man cannot live on bread alone, but from every word that proceeds from the mouth of God." You're listening to Daily Truth.
Matthew Henry says the following: some of the Israelites that passed over Jordan perhaps were stupid, silly, and so little affected with this great favor, this miraculous sign of God to them, that they felt no concern to have it remembered, while others, in contrast, it may be, were so much affected with this miracle, the parting of the Jordan River, so much affected with it, and had such deep impressions made upon them by it, that they thought there needed no memorial of it to be erected. The heart and tongue of every Israelite in every age would be a living, lasting monument of it. So on the one hand, stopping here for a moment in this quote from Matthew Henry, on the one hand, it was probably very likely that at least some of the people of Israel were unimpressed. And they should have been impressed. It's a miraculous sign. And yet, miraculous signs have always been dismissed, waved away by unbelieving people. And we know that there were many in Israel that were a part of God's covenant people outwardly. They were children of Israel according to the flesh, but they were not true children of Israel, the true seed of Jacob according to the promise. That they were not spiritual Israel because their hearts were hardened in unbelief. And for those who disbelieve in the promises of God and the commandments of God, there are always ways of taking even blatant and obvious signs and wonders of God and dismissing them as merely natural phenomena or practical occurrences. And there were probably some in Israel that attempted to do this, that because of unbelief and rebellion, their hearts were hardened against God, and therefore they immediately probably sought certain practical, physical, natural explanations to dismiss this as a miracle. On the other hand, there were likely very many in Israel who thought that this miracle was so clearly the hand of God at work, so clearly a supernatural work of God, that they likely thought there was no need to erect a monument, a memorial, that surely everyone would remember this because it was so miraculous, and that merely the memory, living memory of the people of Israel throughout different ages and generations, and by oral tradition, by their own tongue and mouth and sharing what God had done, that would be sufficient to remember this miraculous sign forever. Going on now in the quote from Matthew Henry, he says this: "But God, knowing their frame and how apt they had been soon to forget his works, ordered an expedient for the keeping of this in remembrance to all generations, that those who could not, or perhaps would not, read the record of it in the sacred history books of Israel, that they might come to the knowledge of it by the monument set up in remembrance of it."
Whoa. You're going to want to hear this. Our next two conferences are coming up quick. We've got first our fall conference. This is November 11th and 12th. That's a full day Saturday and a holdover for the Lord's Day, November 12th. Who's speaking at this conference? Well, we've got Jared Longshore and Chris Wiley and yours truly, Pastor Joel Webben. What's the title? The title is The Household and the War for the Cosmos. Now, I know you're thinking, wait a second, you can't use that title, Joel. That's the title for Chris Wiley's book. Well, I can use it because he's going to be there speaking and he gave me his permission. We're going to be talking about the household as the basic building block for pushing back the kingdom of darkness in this world. We're going to be talking about biblical patriarchy. We're going to be talking about marriage and parenting, how to keep your kids, how to shape and form them like straight arrows, like sharp arrows that do damage to the kingdom of darkness, training our children in the fear and admonition of the Lord. A full day on Saturday, November 11th, and then holding Jared Longshore over for the Lord's Day, November 12th, to preach at my church, Covenant Bible Church in Central Texas. You can register at the early bird rate, which will not last long, but you can register at the early bird rate today by going to rightresponseconference.com. Again, that's rightresponseconference.com. Now, our second conference is our spring conference. This is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. The title for this conference, Blueprints for Christendom 2.0. Blueprints for Christendom 2.0. We don't want to revert back to Christendom 1.0, although it would certainly be a whole lot better than the clown world that we're currently living in. But we recognize, despite the phenomenal features of a prior Christendom, there were certain bugs that we'd like to see worked out. So we're not going back. We are pushing forward to Christendom 2.0. We believe that the blueprints are 7 doctrines for ruling the world righteously. What are these 7 doctrines? Well, it's Reformed confessionalism, it's covenant theology, it's biblical patriarchy, it's presuppositionalism and Kuyperianism, and general equity theonomy and hopeful eschatology post-millennialism. Who's going to be teaching us on these doctrines? Voldemort, he who must not be named, Pastor Douglas Wilson himself. You also got Mr. Brighthearth, Mr. King's Hall, Mr. Haunted Cosmos, Pastor Brian Sauvé. And we also have Dr. Joseph Boot, and of course, yours truly, Pastor Joel Webben. We'll be doing 7 primary lectures as well as 2 90-minute panels with all the speakers together, and we'll likely add a couple more speakers along the way. Again, that's March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's Blueprints for Christendom 2.0. We've got the early bird rate going right now, but it will run out quickly. So go to rightresponseconference.com, rightresponseconference.com to register today.